So the virtual rollups are the ZKStateChannels I mentioned. It's the combination of the zero knowledge proofs that we use and also the state channel network, which basically allows any user to deposit into a smart contract on one chain and basically tap into a unified liquidity layer across any other chain.
Yo, GM guys. Today I'm joined by Jose, founder of VDEX, a next-gen trading protocol backed by Binance Labs, powered by Virtual Rollup that delivers sub-millisecond execution, zero-gas trading, and true self-custody. We're here to understand the vision behind VDEX, why it was built, how it challenges both DEX and checks models, and the mindset driving its mission to unlock performance without compromise. This is BlockHunters Voices, the podcast with cool kids from the blockchain space. I'm Joachim Vuj, your host. Jose, great to have you here, my friend.
GMVJU, or GV Shark, as we say at VDEX. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm very excited to talk about VDEX and the crypto industry more broadly.
Before we dive into everything that's VDEX, let's rewind a little because I'm really curious. What were you working on before entering the crypto rabbit hole, before starting VDEX, and how did that experience shape your approach to building a trading protocol?
Yeah, great question. So I am new to working in terms of building. I was 19 when I founded VDEX, or the precursor to it, and my only experience before that was school and some clubs. So this is really my first foray into building in general. But I have been a trader and I have been in crypto for a few years before that. So I was a options and Forex trader and took that experience to VDEX, and also was in blockchain, founded the crypto club at my university, and was also a crypto trader for a few years before.
It's very interesting meeting. I like meeting people from the both sides because there are some people like me that we had like a life before crypto because crypto did not exist. So maybe like 40 plus, and the new kids on the block that really started out with crypto directly because they are very young and eager to learn everything.
Yeah, it's always like, oh, what's your background? I don't have a background. What was your life before blockchain? My life is blockchain.
Yeah, you kind of have a background because you did trading. You can't bring the trading protocol if you're not a trader, right?
That's right. But tragically, I'm unable to trade now. Not enough time, and I'd be trading against my own capital. So
Yeah.
the things we sacrifice for building, right?
And what was the original thesis behind the VDEX? And when did you realize virtual rollups could be the unlock for high speed and self-custodial trading?
Yeah, so I'll give some background on Virtual Labs and VDEX. So Virtual Labs is the cryptography firm that built the zero knowledge state channels. Basically think Lightning Network, but Turing complete and EVM compatible. And VDEX is a perpetual exchange using this technology. So the real USP, the value in VDEX is from the ZKStateChannels by Virtual Labs. And that's going back 3 years because I know that the experience in crypto is horrible. It's sort of an impossible trilemma between privacy, scalability, and trustlessness. And most exchanges are only able to achieve two of them. And I got into the rabbit hole of this technology of state channels. I knew I could improve it by adding some game theory to it, which is my background. And that's how ZKStateChannels were born. And then as a trader myself, I'm like, well, where is the best place to implement this technology? Let's implement it in an exchange so that consumers can sort of touch and feel it with their own hands. Because before that, we had just built like an SDK, and it's a bit harder to appreciate the value of what someone has built when it's a white paper. So we said, hey, let's jump into a product.
Yeah, it's very interesting nowadays because as crypto matures, we can actually see that the on-chain products really start to feel more like the custodial products, the chexes, So even though we have a lot of users that are not really onboarded, I think this is a very important step into actually bringing using crypto as it's supposed to be used on chain.
Yeah. Right now, most crypto is not even crypto.
Yeah, exactly. But tell me, let's break it down a little. What is VDEX? What are the virtual rollups? Tell me, let's get dive in.
Yeah, so the virtual rollups are the ZKStateChannels I mentioned. It's the combination of the zero knowledge proofs that we use and also the state channel network, which basically allows any user to deposit into a smart contract on one chain and basically tap into a unified liquidity layer across any other chain. So, for example, if you're familiar with Bitcoin Lightning, no one makes payments on Bitcoin main chain. If you go to Stake and Shake, or you go to pay for your Tesla in Bitcoin, all of that's happening on a Lightning wallet because the fees are
Way
100
higher
or exactly,
on main.
or and it's also much faster. And so we're sort of bringing that same type of technology, virtual rollups, ZKStateChannels, to EVM, where it has the same properties. It's zero fees. It's extremely fast. We're talking like on the order of millisecond finality on the machine. And it's also omnichain. So users can deposit from one chain and withdraw on another. And maybe the most important element, especially in the news today, is it's fully private. So if you're on a direct EVM chain, it's transparent so that everyone can see what you're doing. And with the James Wynn situation on Hyperliquid, that's become much into focus. But ZKStateChannels, or zero knowledge, they're private. So the flow would be, let's say, Viju, you want to deposit into VDEX, you deposit into the smart contract on Ethereum or whatever your favorite EVM chain is, say Arbitrum, BNB, what have you. And then from that point on, it's like you have a receipt. It's like blockchain currently is you're at a restaurant. You order a water, you have to pay for it with your credit card. You order a pizza, you have to pay for it with your credit card. You order a cupcake, you have to pay for it, right? Every single time you're paying for it. It's sequential, it's annoying, it's expensive, it's not a good experience. Every single time you have to pay, right? But the analogy with VDEX and with virtual rollups is that once you're deposited onto the chain, you pay, of course, to deposit onto the smart contract. But after that, you're accumulating a receipt, right? Okay, you're keeping track. Okay, I paid for the water, I paid for the pizza, I paid for the cupcake. And at the end, you have a ledger, you have a list, and then VDEX also has a list. You both have this list, and at every single step, both of you are signing it. So at any moment, if VDEX goes offline, or if you go offline, any party can basically tap out to say, hey, let's settle the bill right now by putting the most recent state on chain. And from that point, it's trustless because it's been pre-signed. That's sort of how it works, and also how it's private, because the only person to know the state is VDEX and yourself. There's no third party that knows the state because it's also signed by ZK proofs.
Yeah, that is kind of the definition of zero knowledge, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know because when I first discovered zero knowledge, that was a similar definition that I found in the internet that is not so technical. Something similar like, we have a list of restaurants, you have a list of restaurants. How do I know which restaurants we have in common, but without knowing the whole list of everybody?
Yeah. So it's in conclusion, it's private. It's extremely fast. It's zero gas fees, and it's centralized exchange like user experience while being decentralized and trustless.
And also, I know that you guys don't require a KYC, and you don't really need a VPN to use it in the States, right?
That's also true.
And
Yes.
how do you manage that? I'm really curious. I mean, do you need like some, from a compliance point of view, how do you manage everything?
Yeah, so the definition of an exchange in the applicable law is, does your exchange or money provider, I believe is the language, have custody of, control of, or power over user funds at any point in the business cycle? So Hyperliquid has 21 validators, and most of them are controlled by the foundation, cannot make this argument, right? They've rolled back the chain. So that's concrete proof that they are centralized. Sui did the same thing with their hack. And I don't
Yeah,
blame
and
them.
they do it the same thing with Jello.
Exactly.
What's this called? Yeah.
Exactly. And that's certainly a choice that I think there's nothing really wrong with that. It's a choice that they make. But what I don't like is when they then broadcast themselves as decentralized. No, you're not. No, you just rolled back the chain because you lost money. So you
Yeah,
played the
but
game.
I mean, decentralization otherwise kind of an utopia. It's very. How many companies are really decentralized?
Two, Bitcoin and Ethereum.
Yeah, exactly. So,
It's a
it,
spectrum.
yeah, exactly.
But where I think we and how this relates to the the compliance question you asked is that if you do not have the custody of, control of, or power over user funds, then you can make the argument you're not an exchange. So this is what Uniswap uses. Uniswap is fully on chain on Ethereum, and therefore they never have custody of user funds, and so they can operate in the United States without a VPN. We make the same argument using our receipt technology, the virtual rollups. We call them virtual rollups for a reason. They're virtual. They basically don't exist. They live in between the blocks, in between the settlement layer itself. So we're not a different blockchain. We have no sequencers. We have unfortunately no need for your RPCs because we're not a blockchain. And that means that we can rely on Ethereum's decentralized settlement capability, or whatever settlement layer the user chooses, and make the argument that we are not having custody of user funds and are therefore not an exchange, and therefore cannot do not need to require KYC or VPN even in the United States.
Sounds good. And I think privacy is something that we should care, but most of the people don't really care about privacy. I mean, if you look at most of the people out there, and I'm not really talking about crypto, they don't really care to give their data away to 5% discount, or I don't know. They don't. People don't care about privacy.
No, which is why we don't really advertise that point. Nowhere in our documentation do we, or at least in our marketing, do we really advertise that we are able to provide dark pools. That's changing actually because of the James Wynn situation and CZ's tweet. In fact, actually, here's some alpha for you. CZ tweeted about the dark pools and how he would be interested in discussing with protocols that can do what Hyperliquid does, but private, which is us. And so we actually just sent him a message. Of course, we're backed by Binance Labs, so we're now in I wouldn't say conversation, but we've started the conversation. And what's I think worth highlighting there is that retail and users do not care, but companies and high net worth individuals do care. They are the target audience of private and dark pool transactions.
Yeah, but I feel like James Wynn wanted to do this because of the famous status and marketing stuff. I mean, if he did it on dark pools, I mean, he didn't have that fame, right? Everybody's watching him, what is he's doing on chain.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I agree, but certainly some other people definitely prefer privacy. But also, I mean, you can make the argument that, let's say that James Wynn was on VDEX and he had that $1 billion position.
Yeah,
with
you could hedge that $1 billion position on VDEX and nobody would know.
yes, he could do that, but also he could still share his story. He could still be sharing the information
Yeah.
without revealing his liquidation price. Because the problem with being on chain is that it's basically a
You're
sandwich tech.
hunted.
You're hunted, right?
Yeah,
But you can still
exactly.
share that journey and get that marketing attention. And also, you can prove that you have the position with a ZK proof. So it's not like you can take a screenshot. No, you can actually directly prove it without revealing your liquidation price. So that would be the advantage.
That's a good point. I actually had in the past an interview with a guy named Carter Wetzel. He's from Shade Protocol. Shade Protocol is something on Cosmos. You should take a look. They have dark pools as well.
Cool.
Yeah, they are built on top of Secret Network.
Okay, I know secret. I'll have to
Yeah,
check
yeah.
them out.
Yeah, exactly. And I also think like it's a stigma nowadays to say like you're a privacy protocol or something because people really when they hear privacy protocol they think like tornado cage, they think like Monero, they think like you are doing something shady, you are laundering money, you are doing something like this, and I don't think that's the way to go, but this is where we are.
Yeah, I think it's changing. I think a lot of that has been because of the persecution of founders in the United States. But the regime has changed and it's a lot more favorable to crypto now. The entire world is we live in a world where the president of a sovereign nation is bull posting his Bitcoin profits
Yeah,
daily.
it's Black Mirror, man.
Yes, we're living in either the best or the worst timeline, and we don't know yet, and we're gonna find out probably pretty soon.
Getting back to VDEX, because as you said, VDEX is Omnichain, right? But
Yes,
I know that you guys don't have AMMs, so how does VDEX ensure deep liquidity?
great question. So it's an order book actually, which is another decision that we were able to make because of the super high throughput that the state channels allow, and that means that there's no impermanent loss for LPs. It's better trading experience. It's more customary to the traders on Wall Street and the general TradFi environment, which is our longer term focus. And the way that allows us to be omni-chain is also through the state channels. So it's sort of like that receipt. If you have all your bills, you get the water, you get your pizza, you get your cupcake, right? You have this receipt. You can pay with your waiter, but let's say the waiter's taking too long and you want to just go up to the counter, right? Well, that would be like going to a different chain. You can go to the counter, you can go to the other waiter, you can sort of cash out your receipt on any different chain. And that's possible because once you've deposited into that smart contract and you've gotten your receipt, you're on the state channel, you're on the virtual rollup, and it's sort of completely combined there. And that means that this receipt is valid at any other smart contract. So for a concrete example, we're currently live on 3 blockchains. We're live on Ethereum, we're live on BitLayer, and we're live on Nibiru. And so Viju, you could deposit on Ethereum and you could withdraw onto Nibiru. And that would be possible. Now, we do have to rebalance the liquidity and make sure that the USDC is actually available for you to withdraw. But the smart contracts on both of these chains are identical, with the exception of one variable called chain ID. So the chain ID on Ethereum is say 0, and say it's 1 on Nibiru. You have your receipt that first has chain ID 0. Then you're going to say, hey, VDEX, I would like to actually withdraw, or to any counterparty, but let's just say VDEX, I would like to withdraw into Nibiru. You have this receipt, and it's going to be an atomic swap where VDEX is going to say, okay, here's your new receipt that is the exact same balance, exact same everything, except this new chain ID 1. And then you're going to get this new state, and you can then just withdraw that directly on Nibiru. And if, say, like VDEX were to go offline during this process of changing this in this atomic swap, then you can always at any moment force withdraw using your original chain ID 0 state. So it's sort of like you're controlling your own bridge and are able to withdraw onto any chain.
Yeah, that was actually something that I wanted to ask you a little bit later on. What happens when the product if the protocols goes down? I mean, can users like lose their funds? They can recover their funds and stuff like this.
The way I think about it is that we operate as a centralized exchange when everyone is behaving, but at any moment you're storing your receipts so that if anyone is either offline or malicious, you can basically change your execution layer from the ZK State channel to Ethereum. So it's that let's operate in a fast environment, in a cheap zero gas environment until there's a problem, and then we go to Ethereum. And because of the fact that everyone is holding their receipts, it's very unlikely that we would ever need to go to Ethereum or to any other blockchain. But that is possible. And in the fact that it is possible prevents cheating from taking place in the first place. So, concrete example, let's say that you deposit 1,000 USDC onto VDEX on Ethereum, and then you go 10x long on Bitcoin, and then Bitcoin goes to 120k. So you would have made around $1,000, or actually $2,000. And let's say that VDEX says, "Hey, you actually never made that purchase order." So there's going to be three states, right? There's going to be the state where you deposited, there's going to be the state where you bought BTC at 10x leverage, and there's going to be the state where you sold. So VDEX is going to say, "Hey, the state where you deposited exists, but the state where you bought does not exist. But when you bought, you received VDEX's signature in exchange. So you got instant finality at the moment when you made the trade. And so if VDEX says that trade doesn't happen, you say, hey, I brought receipts. I'm going to put this directly on Ethereum now. And Ethereum, the smart contract is immutable and unbiasable. That's the one fully on-chain element of VDEX. And then the smart contract, which is also transparent for everyone to look at and investigate, will say, hey, you did in fact buy this. Here's VDEX's signature, which is predefined. Here's your signature, which is predefined. Here's when you bought. Here's when you sold. Here's what your profit is. Here you go.
And in terms of market making, I know that you guys have something called VMM, virtual market making. And how is it different from traditional market making?
Yes. So VMM is similar to Hyperliquidity Provider. For those familiar, it is an order book market maker. So it places orders around the perp price or the mark price corresponding to how much it is overbought or oversold. So let's say everyone is buying BTC right now. That means the VMM is likely going to have a net short position. And so the perp price would be a little bit higher, let's say 0.1% or even 0.01% higher than the spot price. So if it's at 100,000, be say at 110,000, the perp price for BTC would be. And it sets up orders above and below, just like any OB, and it takes deposits from liquidity providers and basically uses those funds to create the orders. And then from the profits deriving from the spread, deriving from the trading fees, and deriving from arbitraging the funding rate, it's going to pay back 100% of those profits to liquidity providers. So it sort of serves three purposes. It stabilizes the exchange, it provides liquidity to users, and it also provides profits to liquidity providers in an open and transparent way. So it's not just the insiders that are being able to profit at these high APRs.
And what exactly is a virtual insurance pool? And how does it work, and when does it step in?
Virtual insurance pool is our equivalent of funds or SAFU. So it ensures that all users have the ability to withdraw and that their deposits are actually isolated. So user deposits, we basically sanctify them and completely isolate them from not only each other, but LP deposits. So if you deposit into Ethereum, your 1,000 USDC is in its own isolated vault, and that cannot be tampered with, that cannot be withdrawn by any other person. But a perp DEX is a zero-sum game. So if you go long, and let's say actually in this example, BTC goes down, so you've actually lost money, that would mean that, let's say Alice has gone long or has gone short and profited from your net long position. They are basically entitled to your profits, and they need to be able to withdraw. But how do we, number one, it's sort of like an impossible problem. How do we, number one, isolate your funds, but also allow Alice to claim her profits? That's what the virtual insurance pool is for. So it's basically a pool that Alice will be able to withdraw from, so she can get her immediate profits. And what we will do later, we will basically knock on chain. We're gonna say, hey, we're gonna go to your isolated vault on chain on Ethereum and say, hey, we believe here's our new state that says actually, hey, you've lost some funds, so we're now gonna withdraw some funds from your isolated vault into the virtual insurance pool. But this needs some time. It acts as a fraud proof. If you're familiar with how optimism works, you need some time to allow disputes. So we're going to submit our state, give you some time to submit your states, and then withdraw the funds from the isolated vault into the virtual insurance pool. And then the virtual insurance pool is just that buffer so that Alice can withdraw before the fraud proofs can settle.
Yeah, it makes totally sense. Right now, the platform is in beta. Why should early users know about trading on the beta version, what's coming at full launch, and why would they actually trade on VDEX? Because for me, it's an argument about privacy, but you said you're not marketing this, so I'm curious, how do you attract users?
I would say our philosophy is come as you are. So we allow users to deposit from any chain, and that offering is expanding every month. We also allow users to deposit Bitcoin margin. So if users want to deposit Bitcoin or Ethereum, we give 1-to-1 margin at par collateralized ratio. So if you put in 1 BTC, you're going to get $104,000 worth of margin. There's a lot you can do with that. You can use that so you don't have to sell. You don't have a taxable event on your BTC. You can also go short 1 BTC. So you can go put in 1 BTC, go short 1 BTC. You have a delta neutral hedge, and that's useful for a lot of trading strategies. You can also put that into the VMM. So you can put in 1 BTC into the VMM and get sustainable Bitcoin yield. So you're not selling, you still have BTC. And unlike other exchanges where you can put in 1 BTC, but it's going to swap for you. So it'll give you $104,000. But in VDEX, we denominate it in BTC. So you can put it into VMM. VMM, after, say, a year, we're currently averaging around 35-40% APR. And you're going to get that yield. But then when you withdraw, if Bitcoin is appreciated, you're going to get back 1 BTC. And you basically get the appreciation or depreciation in your BTC plus the yield. So it's just a lot more flexible. So it's like this come as you are, whatever margin, whatever collateral, whatever chain, whatever you want. And then once you deposit, it's a super fast onboarding experience. You want to onboard to Binance, you have to show your passport, you have to sign up. It's all this. If you want to use Hyperliquid in the United States, you have to buy a VPN, you have to bypass the mechanism. It's a whole mess. VDEX is the best of both of those, where it's come as you are and come quickly. The onboarding experience to VDEX is seconds. So it's just a good user experience. It's simply also secure. We have full self-custody. We have privacy. It's almost hard to list all the benefits.
Yeah, and also you have like zero gas trading, right?
Also zero gas trading, yes.
Yeah. I'm not really familiar because I remember back in the day when DYDX was, they didn't have something like zero gas trading, right? You had to press the button every time.
Yes, you have to hit MetaMask every time, and they have those sort of session keys now where you can create a key, but there's still sort of a gas sponsor that's paying for that on the back end. Hyperliquid, our biggest competitor, also has zero gas fees. So zero gas fees is not super special, but what is special is maintaining zero gas fees. And of course, Binance and Coinbase have also zero gas fees. But what's special is having zero gas fees and full self-custody at the same time. So we talked about Hyperliquid being centralized. Of course, Binance and Coinbase are centralized, but having self-custody, trustless execution, the user is able to withdraw at any moment, even if the platform is down. Having that and zero gas fees, that's what was difficult. That's what me and my team spent the last 3 years developing.
How big is that team right now?
We're now at 12, although a month ago we were only at 9 or even 8. We're expanding very, very quickly. We've hired 3 engineers and 1 marketer in the last month, and we plan to hire another marketer or 2 and another engineer or 2. So quickly growing to meet demand.
Quickly growing the team, growing the community of traders and builders. I'm curious, since right now is mainnet beta, where do you see VDEX in the next 12 to 24 months? Are you going to launch a token? What's going to happen? What's on the roadmap?
Yeah, that's right. So you asked about what VDEX is going to look like at full launch. So the main difference at full launch, well, currently we have a lot of controls. So we want to avoid, like Hyperliquid and Bybit, for example, possible exploits. So we believe that our future is pretty much predestined, that we are going to win and take a large percentage of market share in the PerpDex space. We just believe our product is superior. We believe our marketing capabilities are superior. We've experienced 30 million in volume in our first month and a half with zero paid marketing and fully in beta and also invite only with only 1 trading pair, only offering BTC. So we believe we're going to win. The only thing that can stop that is a black swan event where, say, we get hacked. And so our entire...
Yeah, but you have to have that mindset that at some point you're going to get hacked, so you can be prepared when it's coming.
Exactly. And if you are lucky and prepared enough, they say that success is equal parts luck and preparation, then maybe we can avoid that altogether. And the way we're doing that is, 1, our entire code base has been audited multiple times. And the second way we're doing that is in beta, there are a lot of restrictions. So withdrawals take 24 hours. So they're fully controlled by the user. There's just a 24-hour on-chain clock. And that allows us to, if there is a as Bybit was hacked by $1.3 billion, if we see that a withdrawal request that is malicious, we are able to upgrade the contract. So that'd be the second restriction we have during beta to protect the exchange while we're still, of course, gaming out all of the possible vulnerabilities. So that's the main advantage, or the main advantage to the security of the protocol in beta, and why users can be very secure and sleep at night. I like to say that I don't sleep at nights. I'm currently on like 3 hours of sleep, so apologies if I'm coming across that way, so that our users can't sleep. And we have these protections in place to make that possible. And during full launch, once it's been battle tested, we will go to a fully immutable contract.
Since you've mentioned that you only had like three hours of sleep, I'm really curious to see who exactly is Jose, and I want to know, like, do you have like some sort of discipline? Do you have like the daily rituals, like meditation, training, journaling, dopamine detox, going to the gym, going to nature? Do you do this kind of stuff, or are you locked in to the computer all the time?
Yeah, it depends on sort of what the situation calls for on any given week, I would say. But my routine is pretty much that I wake up at 8, I go for a walk, I get some matcha. I'm a big matcha evangelist, and I go on a walk, get the brain juices flowing, and then I try not to look at my phone for like the first hour or so of the day, and and then I go into work. I'm big into sort of like thinking about thinking and sort of context switching, and so I like to differentiate the three categories of tasks into enlisted, lieutenant, and general. So different levels of strategy and thinking, and I want to separate those as much as possible. So I do the journaling and I do the reflecting at the end of the month. So I have a ritual every 30th or 31st of the month where I will not do any enlisted work, no messages, no phone, nothing like that. And I will just sort of just think about my thinking in a dark room and reflect on what went wrong, what went right. And so I would say that's sort of my routine. But lately it's been so busy that I haven't had all the time for my matcha walks. It's sort of just been right to work.
I can only imagine because I mean you have a lot of weight on your shoulders, at a very young age.
Yeah,
And what has been the hardest moment for you building VDEX until
so many.
now?
Yeah, so many. I mean, it has been hard. It's been. I'm also a solo founder, so no co-founders has made it hard. But I would say the hardest was in the last, basically this last winter. I'm a very seasonal person, so I actually live in Barcelona now. I wanted as much sun and warmth as possible. I'm originally from Boston, and I
Boston is not good on weather.
I just can't do. I would get out of school or I'd get out of swim practice at like 3:34, and it would already be pitch dark. I can't do it. I just can't do it. It's not who I am. I have the Colombian blood, and I need my sunshine. and and so I moved here. But even in Barcelona, it's a lot less light, a bit cooler, and that combined with it was more so the situation, just nothing working. We had tried to launch VDEX in September of last year, then in November by DevCon. So it was like September by Token 2049 in Singapore, then by DevCon, and then by March in Denver. We finally got it off the ground in like April 3rd, actually. And so it was like 3 successive delays, a lot of frustration, just very, very difficult time. Thankfully past that now, but there were certainly some dark moments.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I mean, even with funding and backing, things can go sideways very very easy, and especially in a market that has such many ups and downs, and people are, I don't know, frustrated because of the market. And yeah, I can only imagine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was it hard though to get in touch with Binance? Did you have like to bootstrap in the beginning? Then did you find out Binance? I'm really curious about this particular fundraising journey.
Yeah. So, funny story on how I got into Binance. I was at Boston Blockchain Week, and I was looking for engineers actually. So this is when I was just me, one man company, and I was looking because I'm actually not so technical. I'm decent at the cryptography and game theory. Economics was my background at Yale, but the real heart and core of a company is cryptographer or engineer, and that's what I was looking for. And at the time, I had no money, so I needed someone who would work for free until we could raise. And so I was just going up to, actually, I put a paper on my shirt that said, "Do you know cryptography?" And I would go to conference. I went to the Chainlink SmartCon in New York. I went to Boston Blockchain Week. I just go to all these conferences, and my only ask was not VCs, it was engineers. And so I was just going up to everyone, and I went up to these 2 guys. I'm like, "Yo, you know cryptography?" And they're like, "No, but we're VCs. We're for Binance Labs." And they they just they liked me. I had just dropped out of Yale, and so they liked that narrative. And even though I never actually technically applied, which is the interesting thing. They just saw me. They got super enthralled, and even though the applications had already passed, they're like, "Yeah, we want you." And so I got in without even applying, and that was a phenomenal experience. Also, side note, my tenure at Binance Incubation was coinciding with the FTX collapse, so there was that whole situation, and it was just really great time.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, people don't really understand that is the person that sells the product, and you use that product because you like the person. You give money to that. You give money for a project because you like the person, you like their energy. So for me, my 2 cents. Maybe for somebody else is different, but for me, the energy is first place.
Yeah, yeah. Storytelling is important, and it's fine. I don't know how many threads you want to go on, but what I've been thinking about lately is CT, crypto Twitter, and how that's sort of an isolated bubble. And storytelling is important. People talk about that, but I think that's too much of a intellectual circle jerk, for lack of a better word, and that the real audience sort of lies elsewhere.
Yeah, I understand that. I actually can give you an example. I mean, you probably know that. Because storytelling isn't everything as you say, and storytelling on a city. We've seen the case with the movement, right? You know, the guys from movement. On the storytelling was perfect. Everything was perfect, but until it wasn't, you know. So they had a lot of issues with the technical, a lot of issues, the funds, the market meters, you know. So it's not enough at the end of the day.
Yeah, yeah. I knew Rishi too. Crazy
Yeah,
story.
yeah. Crazy story. We are investors and we run some infrastructure for them. I'm
Oh
still
damn.
bullish on the guys. Hopefully they're gonna get back on track, but it's crazy, you know.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. So you need storytelling and tech.
Storytelling and tech. Yeah,
That's the
exactly.
recipe.
Yeah. Jose, we are entering the last chapter of the podcast, and we want to wrap things up with some rapid fire questions
Let's
to
do
get
it.
a sense of where your head's at when it comes to crypto. But for these ones, just quick top of the mind answers.
All right.
What do you feel is the most underrated and overrated trend in crypto right now?
Trend.
Yes.
Overrated InfoFi, right off the bat. Underrated. I'm gonna say zero knowledge. Crypto goes in waves, and zero knowledge is something that has been talked about a lot, but I think it's making a bit of a comeback.
Favorite crypto app or tool that you actually use?
Um, well, I just use the Reach Me to send a message to CZ, so I'll say that. But on the daily, Aave, even Hyperliquid, give a shout out to our competitor at those apps.
What's reaching me?
Reach Me, it's a way you can pay to send messages to people on BNB. So it's mostly for CZ, and
Oh,
it allows you basically him to have a chance to actually respond to people because the quantity of messages is much less.
is it similar to the bank?
Dbank is the exchange.
No, the bank is an explorer, but you can send messages on chain, something like that.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
I'm not familiar. I think it is similar.
yeah. Nice. What's one crypto opinion you've completely changed your mind on the past year?
Something I changed my mind on. I would say AI agents. I used to think it was a lot of noise, and it is a lot of noise, but there is actual potential. There's one tweet I saw that it was like AGI could literally be born on Solana. I think that's real. I think actually the ecosystem and the decentralized nature of being able to pay for fractional requests and communicate directly with each other, um, uninhibited, I think is really underappreciated as an advantage of blockchain.
One piece of advice you'd give to someone entering the space, wanting to become founder, wanting to build, entering DeFi in 2025 or any other crypto rabbit hole?
Decide how you want to exit. So we talked about Move. The audience for Move and the purpose of Move is to launch and dump a token. That's what it is. Everything else is vaporware. And it's the case for a lot of tokens as well, is the sad reality. And that is the audience for crypto Twitter. That is what most people discuss. That's what most people do. It's sort of like, where's the use case? We already found the use case. The use case is speculation, right? So that's what 90% of crypto is about. But there are some real businesses: Hyperliquid, Pump.fund, exchanges.
Infrastructure for the degenerates.
Yes, selling pickaxes at the mine. Auditing, RPCs, exchanges. These Privy is another great example. MetaMask even. These are real businesses in crypto. Decide what you want early on. I would say don't do the pump and dump route, but if you're going to do it, at least be honest with yourself. Decide what you're going to do and then do that. Don't kid yourself that you have a real business, but everyone is just interested in the token.
Where do you personally feel we are in the crypto market cycle right now? Because you are a trader, we're building a trading protocol. So
where's the sentiment?
Where do you personally feel we are in the crypto market cycle right now?
I believe super cycle real because the ETF really has changed everything. So the amount of liquidity taken out of the next halving is going to be like 100 billion, and the ETFs are already at like 120 billion. Don't quote me on those numbers, but it's more from the ETF than from the halving. So there's just a outsized impact from the institutional providers, and I only expect that to increase. And we're going to certainly see Bitcoin is a very regular peak of November or December of the year following the halving, which would be this November, December 2025. So I do anticipate further increases in price, not financial advice, but I would say that we're not really going to live in a market of bulls and bears anymore. It's going to be a lot less predictable.
That's my thought as well. I think it's harder and harder to people actually to make money. We've seen that with altcoins. I mean, Bitcoin is clearly the winner. Solana is a winner. Hyperliquid, you can see it's a winner. But the rest, what is shit, is not just gonna pump because the market is pumping.
Yeah, which I love. Free money train is over. Maybe we can get rid of the noise and focus on building some real things, right? There's this joke of a low interest rate phenomenon, right? Businesses that can only sustain themselves when times are really good. Sometimes you need a little bit of a recession or a bear market to kill off the weak ones and let the strong survive.
One book, film, person, non-crypto, could be crypto, could be non-crypto, but somebody that shaped you, how you lead and how you think today.
Mr. Nobody is a movie that's
the TV series.
It's a movie. Maybe it's also a TV series, but it is about I don't know how it's so wild. I don't even know how to describe it, but yeah, very very interesting. And
why I said TV series, because I confused it with Mr. Robot.
Mr. Robot, yes.
Yeah.
Who's
I know.
The main guy.
Excuse me?
Who's the main actor in Mr. Robot?
Just a sec.
I can picture his face.
Rami Malek.
Yeah, Rami Malek. Yeah, he's great.
I didn't really understand. Does VDEX gonna have a token at some point?
So that's just it, right? What are we gonna do? Well, I'm firmly focused on building a real business. So there will be no token or no discussion of token until we have product market fit, until we are at the very least revenue generating. I would even say profit generating, and then we would launch a token. So we would want to follow the path very similar to Hyperliquid or Pump.fund. You build something that works first. People are using it not because of the token, but because it's real, and then the token can act as a flywheel to that success.
Yeah, and basically it's a company that has revenue, not what you said, like you said earlier, a pump and dump scheme, to useless token that people buy just for speculation.
Exactly.
Before we wrap this up, Jose, where can people follow VDEX? How can people get these invite codes to test out the mainnet beta app?
Yeah, great question. Actually, we're going to send you a invite link. So the BlockHunters subscribers, listeners can use it. And that's actually the only way you can use it because it is invite only. So we'll give you that link, and we'll also attach a trading credit so they won't even need to deposit. They can just go right to using it. I mentioned earlier, time to onboard is a really important metric to us, and it will be less than 30 seconds, probably even less than 15 seconds for any of your users to start trading.
Thank you for this, Jose. It was really nice meeting you and actually seeing a builder that is more focused on actually building a company, building revenue, and not just launch a token in today's times.
Well, thank you for having me on, and likewise, good to talk with another real one in the space.
Thanks, man. Have a great one.
Thank you, Viju.